Welcome and good morning, everyone, to our 12th episode of More to Explore, where we like to keep you updated with everything happening on the world's largest live nature network. And we are excited that the Puffin cams are back online, including an egg in the Puffin burrow that we'll see very shortly. If you don't know me, my name is Brian Bird, and I'll be your technical director today, pushing all the buttons behind the scenes. And to teach us about the wildlife we see today is our resident naturalist, Mike Fitz. Mike, thanks again for joining us this week.
Glad to be here as always. And hello, everyone, no matter where you happen to be watching from around the world. If you're new to Explore.org, welcome to the community. And of course, welcome back to all of our longtime viewers. We're the world's largest live nature cam network with more than 180 live cameras all over the world. Brian and I are here live at the moment. And if you have comments and questions for us, drop those in the chat. We'll be looking for those during the broadcast today. And we're excited this week to introduce the Puffin cams to everyone. Right now, we're looking at the Puffin burrow, which is located on Seal Island National Wildlife Refuge, brought to you by our CAM partner, the National Audubon Society's Seabird Institute, which many of you may know as Project Puffin. This is about 30 miles south of Rockland, Maine. It's the site of a restored puffin breeding colony. And a couple years ago in November, I had the opportunity to head out there, check out a few of the sites along the way. It's a rocky island. It has quite a bit of grass and maybe some low shrubs here and there. I'm sure with all of the breeding birds on the island that the soil, what little soil is there, is rich with nitrogen and phosphorus. But this is one of the more significant breeding sites for puffins off of the coast of Maine. And it's one of my favorite cameras or group of cameras to watch. We're excited to bring that to everybody right now, but we also want to know about the cameras that you've been watching this week or looking forward to watching this week. So you can also let us know about that in the comments, and we'll be looking for those during the show today. The seabird nesting season on the Puffin cams is just beginning, and this is a great opportunity to watch not only Atlantic puffins but razorbills, terns, and guillemots. We have different cameras on the island, so right now we're just looking at in the burrow itself of the pair of puffins, Willie and Millie, that we get to watch raising their chick. But there are several other cameras on the island itself. So there's the exterior view of the burrow. That's where we get to see kind of puffins moving in and out of the burrow. Also later in the year, that's used to watch the puffling fledge from the burrow cam itself. So we get to see it hopping to the water and embarking on its next great journey in life. Boulder Berm, just a great place to watch, different seabirds landing and hanging out, and especially the loafing ledge. That is one of the more relaxing cameras that we have on Explore.org. And the general viewing season for these cameras during May and June, that's sort of when we see incubation happening among the birds on the island. Late June, we can see hatching. So that's, I think, when we can expect the puffling chick to hatch. And then early to mid-August, that's when we can look forward to the birds fledging and leaving their burrows and heading out to the sea for the first time. Of course, it can be a little bit confusing about where the cameras are located. And Brian, yeah, thanks for bringing up this graphic and finding this graphic for us. So this is the northern portion of Seal Island, again, about 30 miles off of the coast of Rockland, Maine. And the different cameras are located in different positions. So I think this is a great graphic to help get us a better perspective on when those cameras happen to be. The one camera that's not online right now is the Seal Cam. We have that go online generally in November of each year to watch gray seals that come to the island to give birth and also mate. So there's a lot going on this island year round, but we kind of like two peak cam seasons. One is the breeding bird season, and then also the gray seal season in the wintertime. But to give us an introduction to the breeding pair that we see on the burrow cam, last week I spoke to Celeste Flahaven from the Audubon Society's Seabird Institute about the resident pair that we watched there, and here's what she had to say. So Celeste, who are Willie and Millie. What can you tell us about them?
Yeah, so there are Puffin Cam sweethearts, very superstar parents. They have inhabited the on-cam burrow since 2019, where they've successfully fledged a chick. Last year's chick, Flo, was named by the viewers for Florence Miriam Bailey. And as I said earlier, they already have an egg in their burrow this year, and the name suggestions are looking pretty good this year. We have some really good ones related to ornithology and conservation.
Willie and Millie, they return to their burrow to provide security and safety for their offspring. And puffins generally lay a single egg each year. So there's already egg in there. What's the general timeline for egg incubation in chick rearing? And when might we uh, roughly expect the egg to hatch?
Hmm. So Willie and Millie had already laid their egg on camera by May 12th, which is when it went live. So it's hard to say when it was laid, but we should probably be on hatch watch around mid or end of June, as a puffin egg takes about 6 weeks to incubate. And the burrow that the chick will hatch into is the same burrow that its parents have come back to year after year. Seal Island is incredibly rocky, being comprised of mostly granite. So the rocks occasionally shift and move around, and there may be some puffins who return to find their burrow gone and have to search out a new one. Other puffins might switch burrows if they return to the island, but their mate does not, in which case they might switch to a new mate and a new burrow. So this behavior, I think, speaks to the remarkable adaptation of the puffins, but also to their sense of home. Even if their burrow gets shifted around or lost, as the researchers say, they continue to live in and with their colony on whichever island they choose. Our puffins must really like Seal Island on camera because they keep coming back.
Awesome. We're so excited to see Willie and Millie and their egg this season. And speaking of, and also you can catch that live chat replay on the Explore Live Nature Cam's YouTube channel. And on our documentary YouTube channel, you can also catch a documentary of the whole series of Project Puffin, 40 years of seabird restoration to learn more about Project Puffin. And speaking about puffins, that is our theme in this week's Week of the Week.
It's really narrow when it's viewed from the front, but it's vertically broad when seen from the side. And an Atlantic puffin's beak is perhaps more than the sum of its parts. It's an adaptation to help it raise its family and maybe even showcase its sex and fitness. Atlantic puffins are seabirds who live most of their lives on the open ocean. They only come to land during their brief summertime breeding season. And puffin partners raise a single chick in an underground burrow. Known as a puffling, the newly hatched chick remains in the burrow for about 40 days. Parent puffins must work hard to satisfy their puffling's hunger. Puffins hunt fish by diving under the water, and they sometimes must travel far to find small fish to feed their young. To lessen the frequency and energetic cost of these fishing trips, puffins use their bills to fulfill the role of a hunting tool and a shopping cart. After snatching a fish, the puffin uses its flattened tongue to press its catch against the roof of its upper mandible, where small backward pointing spines hold the fish in place. This is a process that it can repeat again and again as the puffin continues to hunt. In this way, a puffin can catch and hold on to dozens of small fish to transport to its hungry chick. Atlantic puffins have one of the most colorful beaks found among birds, and from their perspective, their beaks really do glow with radiance. So the puffin beak serves perhaps uh, another purpose. The yellow bands on a puffin's bill strongly reflect UV light, and this was first described scientifically in 2019 in a paper titled Photoluminescence in the Bill of an Atlantic Puffin by Jamie Dunning and several co-authors. It's open access, so you can find it just by searching for the title of the paper itself. We can't see the radiance in the puffin bill ourselves because human eyes are trichromatic. That means we can see red, green, and blue light. Bird eyes, though, are tetrachromatic, meaning that they can see colors in the red, green, blue, and the ultraviolet light spectrums. Although we don't yet know why puffin beaks reflect UV light, biologists hypothesize that its photoluminescent properties may serve a role in displaying during the breeding season. The beak's fluorescence occurs within a region of the bill that undergoes seasonal development. The UV glowing plates are kind of like those yellow bands on the bill. They're formed prior to the breeding season and then they're shed afterwards. So in the wintertime, they don't have those UV properties, or at least the parts that reflect UV light. Maybe the purpose, therefore, is to showcase a sign of fitness and health to attract mates, or maybe that has something to do with establishing and maintaining territories at nesting burrows. So if you're a puffin, how do you make a good impression? How do you want others to see you? You need your beak's physical adaptations, maybe first and foremost, to catch enough fish to match the hunger of your growing puffling. But also, maybe you need your bill as a showpiece that communicates to other birds, I'm healthy, I'm attractive, and don't I look good?
Oh, awesome. And how crazy that they have those UV bands. That's fascinating. I never knew that before. But other than puffin season, even though that is definitely what's on everybody's minds right now, we have a few other highlights this week, Mike, including this sighting of a coyote.
Yeah, this was fun to see. It was just a brief clip that we caught on the Decorah North Eagle Nest cam, I believe. This is the same cam that we're watching the grackle nest at right now. And some of my favorite moments on the cams are just the moments that we see something that's unexpected or uncommon, or maybe not the camera's main subject. So coyotes are very adaptable creatures to places that have been disturbed or altered by human habitats. It includes urban areas, suburban areas, it includes farmlands, it includes rural areas. A little bit of scent marking going on there by that coyote. And in many parts of North America, coyotes are maybe breeding or raising their pups. So yeah, I enjoyed this brief coyote sighting that we had on the Decorah nest cam.
And up next at Big Cat Rescue, we have these adorable bobcat kittens that have just been melting my heart all week.
Yeah, Brian, if you were to tell me that these were domestic cats, I would have believed you. I, uh, so yeah, I mean, they look so much just like domestic cats in a sense, except for maybe those pointy tipped ears. But these are located at Big Cat Rescue in Tampa, Florida. These are wild bobcat kittens that were rescued from South Florida due to human disturbance. Their den site was destroyed and they were separated from their mother due to some land clearing activities. So they were rescued, they were brought to Big Cat Rescue, and they're currently in a rehab and rearing program. They're given full veterinarian care while they are captive, and they're being raised together for eventual release back into the wild. And usually that can happen when they're around 6 to 7 months of age. The caretakers at Big Cat Rescue are careful to try to not habituate the cats to people, or at least rely on people for food. So when they go back into the wild, they'll have the best shot at surviving and living their best life as a wild bobcat.
And on the other side of the world, in South Africa, we have quite a different nest than the puffin burrow.
Yeah, this will be fun to watch. We do get to see some weaver birds on some of our Africa cameras, either with our Africam partners or in this case with Impala Live, which is the partner that brought us this camera feed. And I'm not an expert at all in the identity of birds in Africa, but I do think this is a Speaks weaver, a male one. Males can have more than a dozen nests in one tree, and they often start building mainly in acacia trees before the females arrive. So maybe it's sort of like one of those things where the bird is building the nest, saying, "Hey, look at what a great provider I am, ladies. Why don't you come over and join my neighborhood?" Could be something like that. I do think this is also, though, an amazing example of animal architecture. I haven't yet taken the time to research whether this behavior is learned in this species or it's instinctual, or maybe if it's both. Although I do think it's just an amazing example of that architecture. And I also, when I see things like this, I also wonder if humans once learned to weave by looking at the behavior of wild animals like these weaver birds. And if you want to find out more about this species, go check out the field guide that Impala Live has on their website. That's the gazelle, the impala, but without the I at the beginning. So it's the letter MPALA live.org. They have one of the best sort of field guides that I think any of our webcam partners have, maybe the best for the wildlife that you see. It's really kind of a fun browse. So check it out.
Awesome. And coming back to North America and Grasslands National Park, we've seen almost very, very, very young bison calf.
Yeah, this one was especially tiny when I was browsing through some screenshots and fan favorites that people had, and that's how I found the image of this bison calf and its clip. So thanks for everyone for taking screenshots and favoriting those. They help us find some really great, amazing clips. And calving season continues at Grasslands National Park in Saskatchewan, Canada, and this is again a particularly young calf that we saw in the cams last week. And it's really wonderful to see bison, doing bison things in Grasslands National Park because of a few national United States and Canada, bison remain functionally extinct. It'll be a real challenge to restore bison to large areas of North America's Great Plains. And there's efforts certainly to do that. But through the cams, we definitely have a special window to watch one of North America's most iconic animals.
And if you live in the States and you are a night owl, other than the Africa cameras, you can definitely check out the panda cams. We have these two adorable young ones nursing a mom.
Yeah, speaking of iconic animals, this is it's hard to uh, you know hard to find a more or think of a more iconic animal that represents sort of endangered species than the pandas. And this is the Genda Valley cam. We have several webcams with our partners in China to showcase, captive pandas, but also they do a lot of breeding and releasing of pandas into the wild to restore their populations. And the mother of these pandas is Yan Wei. So she has two very large cubs that she's able to care for. And the panda cams, Brian, are certainly for me one of the more relaxing cameras to watch. If I do have the opportunity
Definitely.
to, maybe stay up late, this is definitely one of the ones to put on to help relax the mind.
Definitely. And if you need another cam to help relax the mind, but also equally as adorable, we have the sloth playground cam where we have these sloths gearing up their climbing skills and learning how to forage on their own.
Right. This is at Toucan Rescue Ranch in Costa Rica, and uh, their mission is to rescue and rehab and release Costa Rican wildlife. The animals here also receive full veterinary care at the facility. And they're sloths that are either rescued or orphaned. They progress through different schools of rehab depending on their age and health before they are released to the wild. And Brian, do you know whether this is, I don't know if this is like Sloth University or Sloth High School, or do you know which one this might be?
I'm not sure which one exactly this is.
Yeah, definitely not preschool. I mean, we sort of see that on a different camera where they're in baskets, essentially trying to with blankets so they can stay warm because a lot of these are orphaned sloths. But this is definitely a higher level of development for this individual sloth, and I'm always amazed by the strength, even of the young sloths. Their slow moving nature is a consequence of their low energy diet because they're basically just eating leaves. Uh, and they have skeletal and claw adaptations that are designed to reduce the energy needed to hang on branches, but still they possess a great deal of strength. Imagine the strength needed to hang for branches all day with gravity working against you. But sloths do it, and sloths do it well.
They do indeed. And that brings us to our regular segment of Egg Watch.
No necessarily newness to add to Egg Watch this week, but still a lot of anticipated hatchings coming up uh, for the patient. Of course, we'll start with the Puffin burrow. We, highlighted that cam at the beginning. Just one egg in there with Willie and Millie. We don't know exactly when the egg was laid because when the cameras went live for the year, the egg was already there, and that was right around May 12 or so. But incubation lasts about 6 weeks, so we could see hatching sometime near the end of June for this puffin family. Black eagles in South Africa still incubating their eggs there. They incubate for about 45 days, and I think we can look for the chicks to hatch in early June. So that's coming up, perhaps maybe June 2 to June 6. With ospreys, 3 osprey nests that we're currently monitoring on the cameras. 3 eggs for Audrey and Tom in the Chesapeake osprey nest. 2 eggs for Charlotte and Charlie in Montana at the Charlotte nest, and 3 eggs at the Audubon boathouse for Skiff and Dory. And the 3rd egg there was laid on May 10. Incubation begins immediately with ospreys with the first egg. So hatching doesn't happen sort of like all at once or within a short order that you might see with like geese or songbirds or something like that. But hatch usually happens 35 to 40 days after incubation begins. So I think with all of these birds laying their eggs about the same time, we could look for mid-June, a timetable for hatching there. A lot of birds that have already hatched that we're still watching on their nest. So on to part 2 of Egg Watch, starting with the Decoria eagles, 1 eaglet in that nest that hatched on April 6th. And then around the same time, just in a different part of North America, the 2 harbors eagle nest in Channel Islands off the coast of California. That eaglet also hatched on April 7th. So just 1 eaglet in that nest. They're both getting huge compared to the tiny babies that they once were just a few weeks ago. Eaglets stay in the nest for about 80 days, and we can expect the fledge for both of those birds about the middle of June. With peregrine falcons, a couple of nests we're watching. Great Spirit Bluff, peregrines, 4 eggs hatched there. So 4 ISs, which is the name for a young falcon or hawk, began hatching on May 8th. And the Chesapeake peregrines in downtown Baltimore, Maryland, 4 chicks there as well, getting big and fluffy, feeding very well on a lot of pigeons in that urban environment. And they stay in the nest for, about 40 days or so. So, looking for, they're not going to fledge anytime soon, but in a few weeks still. Great blue herons on the eastern shore of Maryland. 3 chicks spotted in that nest, looking like little dinosaurs. They stay in the nest for 7 to 8 weeks on average, and we could see fledging in late June for the first and oldest chick in that nest. And then finally, at the Decorah North Bald Eagle nest, where we're watching the common grackle, that since that nest is unoccupied by eagles, grackle had at least 4 eggs hatch in the nest over the weekend. I think it was May 15th that our sharp-eyed viewers in CamOps spotted the first little bobbleheads of chicks in the nest. And these are atricial birds. So they're born blind and helpless, basically kind of naked. So the mom is going to do a lot of brooding over the next several days until the chicks get bigger. But this is going to be a real fast process. So definitely watch these birds over the next couple of weeks. The hatchlings will grow about 10 times in mass over the first 10 days of their life, and they remain in the nest for 10 to 15 days after hatching. So they're going to fledge pretty soon. If you want to watch that, look for the Decorah North Eagle Nest on explore.org.
Awesome. So much happening on all of the nests. And last week we had a new segment of Neighborhood Nature, and I just wanted to share a quick couple of submissions that we got. Thank you everyone who's submitted all of their Neighborhood Nature submissions. The first one, forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, but Miris Luchton sent a beautiful photo of a goose and a little gosling sighted in a public park, and it's excited for everyone to enjoy. And also, CamOp Quartet submitting a beautiful rainbow. Not sure exactly where this is, but thank you so much for submitting it. And that brings us to our next segment, which of all of the snapshots of the week, we have a weekly photo contest called Fan Cam Friday. Congratulations to this week's winners. If you would like to participate in Fan Cam Friday, all you need to do is take a snapshot by clicking the camera icon above any live cam and then save it to the gallery. Be sure to help us find future winners by favoriting snapshots. And thank you everyone who's been sending their mug shots, because if you are a winner of FanCam Friday, you get an option of a mug or a tote bag with your snapshot on it. And thank you to our super power user, Li Marge, who has quite a collection of tote bags at this point. So thanks again. And if you have a mug or a tote bag, please send us in. You can tag Explore.org on Instagram and Twitter, or send us a feedback email at feedback@explore.org. And Mike, I believe we have a few questions that came in, if you want to answer those real quick.
Sure thing. Yeah, thanks everybody who's commented and submitted questions. Our questions today are focused really on the puffins, and I'll do my best to answer them. The first one, actually, I don't know the answer to. Somebody was wondering, how can we tell which burrow is Millie and Willie's? I don't know that, but people do. So probably the best place for you to go and ask that question is over on the Puffin cams. Get in the chat there and ask our longtime viewers. I can't remember off the top of my head which burrow it is, but we do know which number it is, and basically kind of where to look on the cameras for it. So you can ask our longtime viewers over there, and also ask Celeste with the Seabird Institute. She'll be happy to answer that question there. So I'll be looking for the answer to that, so I can add that to in the back of my mind for future reference. And then, on the Puffin cams too, we also see a lot of times conflict between puffins, and so somebody was wondering, why are there so many attacks on pufflings from burrow intruders? And I'm not 100% sure why, but I suspect it has to do with the limited amount of just good nesting sites on the island itself. There's only so many places where a puffin could raise its chick. So maybe it's just a territorial thing. They're looking to maybe establish themselves and claim or stake a claim on that burrow itself. That's my best guess, but that's also, I think, a great question to ask Celeste. Third question here in our queue: how do puffins show aggression against an intruder or predator? Well, it's basically, they don't have, weaponry like you would find with other animals. Like, they don't have, big claws or something like that. Although their feet do have a little bit of, short claws on them, but they don't have like big spurs or anything like that. You'd find on a chicken or a turkey. So, and they don't necessarily have like the great size. Like some of those other birds will, like a goose, for example, that will use their size to defend themselves. So they're basically going to just try to fight them off in any way that they can, using the limited body size, using their bills to try to peck, using their wings to sort of like beat the intruder away. With predators, they're not really going to have to worry about that too much on the island itself, because puffins nest in places generally that are free from mammalian predators. In the past in Maine, there was a subspecies or maybe a separate species of mink that was a little bit larger than the normal minks that you find in inland and freshwater areas, but those are extinct. Perhaps some of those could have traveled, to some of these offshore islands. But they really don't have to worry about mammal predators on the islands themselves. It's mostly like bird predators, like big gulls, that maybe will come in and try to snatch a chick. And that's why maybe some of these burrows are so sought after as nesting sites, because they offer just great protection for those young birds. So if a puffin has to defend itself from anything in these burrows, it's probably going to be another puffin looking to, I think, establish its hold over that nesting site. And how do you tell the difference between a male and a female puffin? It can be really difficult to do. So you got to take a close look. But in general, males, they can have kind of a larger bill depth and a head and bill length itself. So if you're able to see them sort of like side by side by the pairs, you can look for those things. This is definitely another great question to get into the chat and ask Celeste on our Puffin cam. She'll be able to guide you through those nuances of the differences between Willie and Millie. And thanks to everybody for their comments and questions.
Yeah, and coming up this week on explore.org, as far as our live programming, we have, of course, more to explore every Monday at 9 a.m., except we will not be live next Monday in observance for Memorial Day. But coming up tomorrow, we have the Africam show at 7 a.m. Pacific time, if you feel like going on a virtual live safari from the comfort of your home. And Mike, you're going to be hosting a live chat this Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific.
Absolutely, yeah. I spoke to the president and CEO of the Chesapeake Conservancy, Joel Dunn, a little bit ago. We recorded a lengthy interview, really fascinating one. We're going to talk about protecting the Chesapeake and how that relates to the birds that we watch on our explore.org cameras. So the peregrine falcons in downtown Baltimore, Maryland. We also talk about great blue herons, and of course the ospreys that we love to watch in the central portion of Chesapeake Bay. So check that out. Joel won't be joining me live, but I'll be there at the beginning and end live to answer people's questions and respond to comments.
And coming up on Thursday is our regular show, Wild Moments, showing you all the best moments from the Africam cams. And in case you missed it, we did have 2 live chats last week. The first was the family life of orcas, and then we also had the live chat with Celeste welcoming home the puffins and osprey for their nesting seasons. And Mike, as far as cams that you're watching this week, what are you looking forward to watching?
You know, I'm going to be watching the grackles. I said that last week. I'm going to do it again this week, probably until they fledge, just because it's such a fast process for these songbirds that are in the nest for only a couple of weeks after they hatch. So I'm going to be watching that as my pick. What about you?
I'm watching the bison calving cam. They're just too adorable, and there's so many of them. You see such the size difference between the calves and the adults, and it's just beautiful to see. And if you haven't already, here's everywhere where you can follow us on your favorite social media platform, including YouTube, which explore live nature cams, where you can see our latest video of a beautifully shot video of diving in Palau. And Mike, besides subscribing to social media, how can they get more involved with explore.org?
Right. The magic at explore.org is done by our volunteer camera operators and our volunteer moderators. So if you're interested in joining that team, we always have opportunities available. So you can go to explore.org/volunteer, fill out this form, and we'll get back to you with more information. We're also specifically recruiting moderators for our world famous bear cams in Katmai National Park, Alaska. No spoilers from me, but we're looking at maybe about a month or so until those cams go live. So you can follow this link and fill out the form there, specifically if you are interested in becoming a bear cam moderator. And again, thanks to all of our moderators and our cam ops for helping make explore.org a success.
And that brings us to the end of the show today. Thank you all for joining us. And I would give a special thank you to all of our moderators, camera operators, and of course, Mike Fitz. And in honor of Cam Up Cat, we're going to end today's show on one of her favorite cams. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks on More to Explore. Until then, have a great week, everybody, and happy exploring.